And queen takes f3. Oh, what is going on? Oh, this is going to be a fortress. I just don't see any hopes at all. This is very easy. Just rook back and forth.
Taking chess to the next level.
Wow. Wow.
Wow, yeah. Nothing else to say. Wow.
Creating the future of the sport. Introducing the Champions Chess Tour. 10 months, 10 tournaments. The world's best players online and on TV.
And queen takes f3.
All right, welcome everybody. We're here for another Banter Blitz session, and today we're going to be playing where I can actually see the board, so hopefully I will not be in such bad shape. Looks like Alexandra wants to play. Is that Alexandra Prada, who's just helped me set up, or let's play with her. Or that's a friend request, not a chat. Oops. Okay. Or not a game. All right, there are the games. Okay, so let's play with Kohler 609. I'm going to have to just real quick. I'm currently blindfolded. I'm gonna have to change it away from that. That'll just take me half a second, but that shouldn't be too hard. Let me just see. I'm going to new tab. Oops. Hang on, this will just be half a second to get my to be able to see the board, but that's okay. Settings, game, blindfold mode off, save, refresh, and then I should be able to see the board. Okay, good. All right, so I lost 30 seconds on that, but that's okay. We should be on our way, and let's play an open Sicilian. I probably should be playing more d4 and Banter Blitz to be consistent with my repertoire, but I'm playing a little bit more diverse now. So this is a knight over with a4, knight f3, which is pretty stupid, but it's not totally dumb. Basically, I want to play sort of a there's a line with a line and a knight over with bishop e3, e5, and then knight f3. But the difference here is that my bishop can come to g5 in one move instead of two. And a4 might be not totally useless. Just a second. So here, I guess I'll castle first. I don't see a need to rock the boat. And I'm going to go bishop g5 next, and I'd be quite happy if he were to take on b3. I think his best play now is knight c6 to a5. In the meantime, I'm just going to shamelessly advertise my courses. I'm going to put that in the link here on Chess24. I'll do my best to answer the Chess24 chat, but I'm not watching on Twitch or YouTube, so sorry to you guys. But yeah, this position is probably quite fine for black, but okay. I played a4 against the knight, or if I'm not going to be really fighting for an advantage. Okay, so bishop g4 I don't like at all. This feels very wrong. I can kick this bishop. If he takes on f3, he's going to end up with a very weak d5 square. So his knight on d4 looks nice, but I think my knight on d5 will be better, and then I'll be able to kick his knight with c3. And there's definitely some risk of him getting... I could get a good knight versus bad bishop. So like, if he takes on b3 here, which honestly, maybe he should, but it feels like he has to move the knight on f6 sooner or later, because if I get to take f6 next and then play knight d5, he's definitely worse. But if he goes like knight d7 here and I take it and go knight d5, I think I'm probably better there too. But at least there, it's maybe he has a little bit more counterplay. So this looks quite good for white. Whoa! So I have blundered some trickery. That's what's going on. That's a shame. Yeah, that's a bummer, isn't it? So if bishop e7, knight c3, he's fine. So let's go knight e4. And if I take d6, it's very balanced, but I'm actually going to stick my queen on d5 and claim that even with a pawn less, I can hope to dominate the white squares and claim an advantage that way. So that's understandable enough. Let's start with rook d1, and now I'm ready to take b7 next. It was not part of my plan to just hang a pawn, but I still think I'm doing pretty reasonably here. So what's he going to play? Queen b6, I thought I could kick his queen. So guys, asking about my classical Sicilian course, that's just completely not up to me. I've given them the full complete course. It's up to Chessable when they want to publish it. So here, queen b4, and I'm thinking I can go rook a4, but then queen b5, and I think if I take it and go rook back to a1, that might be reasonable for me. The endgame, I'll be a pawn down, but I think I'll get it back pretty soon. I'm gonna give it a try. This might be dumb, but we'll see. So he must play queen b5, I'll come back. And now I can go b4, knight c3, I can go rook d5. I have ways to start harassing his pawns that I think he will not enjoy. So here I have to go rook d5. But despite the pawn loss, I like my position. If he plays b4, I can go rook a4, and I'm going to get my pawn back, and my knight is better than his bishop. But he's playing the right way, but I still think my position's probably pretty reasonable. So let's start with knight g3 and attack this pawn. How close do I come to refuting the Smith-Morra gambit? No, I mean, it's if white plays it right against my line, he gets a slightly worse position with no counterplay whatsoever, and if he does anything else, he's just busted essentially. So I think that's a pretty convincing. I mean, it's not like I'm just gonna beat it every time. I mean, there's a line where white ends up just a little worse, but apart from that, it just seems like it's bad, and it's very easy for black. Who do I predict will win the candidates? I mean, these guys are like close enough to each other in strength that I think it'd be ridiculous to suggest it's going to be somebody who doesn't have the most points so far. I just think that, if Ding and Caruana are a little bit better than the rest of them, but they have fewer points, the rest, like that Nepomniachtchi and MVL are massive favorites at this point. Which isn't to say it's guaranteed, but I would certainly take MVL and Nepo over the field by a lot. If I had to pick one, it would be Maxime, but I don't know. Still, even him, like, his chances are probably, like, I would give him, like, 30%, which is higher than anyone else, but still, like, more likely than not, he won't win it. Yeah, I think I've misplayed this a bit, but now it's just complicated, but it's not so bad for me. So here, he's trying to expand on the king side, but I don't think it will matter that much. Rook c4, sure. Let's go rook d1. We've got this weird business where his rook on a7 is really bad, but at the same time, my rook on b5 is also pretty bad, and but I think I have more constructive plans than him. I can go for, like, rook b6, and then knight b5 or knight e4 or something, and he's running out of time. There is an increment, but... Alright, so there. Let's start with rook b6. And g4, sure. So I'll take once, and then let's go rook d2 to overprotect the second rank. And his pawns are pretty well restricted, and now I go knight b5, and I think that I'm going to win. That one I just completely blundered. Okay, maybe I'm not going to win. But I have knight d6 and knight c4, and I'm still better, so let's just do that. He will have to take on b4, and then if I go like rook c2, maybe I'm not better here actually. He's probably fine. Rook b3, rook c3. And now, yeah, so here he's probably fine. He should be okay. This is going to be a draw. I don't think I played this game particularly well, but I don't know though, actually. If I go c4 and knight b3 and king e4, like, that can get pretty bad for black. So say check. Should have started with knight b3 there. Yeah, not my day. But check here, and now he has to come back to c7. Okay, so if I take the bishop, king e4, king c5, take... I think that would... Take c4, take f4. Yeah, that's going to win. So let's take this bishop, and I think I'm winning now. Yeah, and c5, and I got this. Yeah, so this was a bit clumsy, I think, but I managed to get there in the end. All right, good game, Colère. Let's play with Grunerveld. It has a picture of Jakob. I doubt it's actually him, but let's see if it's Jakob. If he crushes me, maybe it is Jakob. All right, Grunerveld. Let's see here. Can he cause me problems? A3, the real refutation of the Sicilian. G6 is a good response because now B4 looks really silly. What do I think of the Sozin with bishop c4 rather than the Rouser? It's not a terrible move, but I think I showed that black was very comfortable. It wasn't anything I was wildly concerned about. Alright, so here knight f6, and it's actually annoying for white to stop knight e4. He has to play some ugly move like rook b1. And this position's very dry, but black is definitely fine. Let's see if this is Jakob or not. Alright, knight c6. It's a pretty boring position. I think I remember in the course the computer said black was a little better here already. I don't really buy that. I think white's too solid to be worse. He doesn't have any weaknesses or anything, but okay, so bishop b5 seems provocative to me because I kind of want to put the knight on d4 anyway. So let's go knight d4, and now it's a little awkward because he cannot he cannot take on d4 without losing the e4 pawn. So white's pieces always just feel a bit awkward to me whenever he doesn't do something critical in the Sicilian. Bishop a4, that feels really weird. Let's see, how do I want to handle this? I can go a6 and threaten b5, which does not look easy to prevent. I don't think he really wants to play b5 himself. Let's give it a try. It's a bit aggressive, but we're playing Banter Blitz. Yeah, guys, if you want games with me, make sure to put funny pictures on your profile. If you put a picture of Jakob, maybe you'll get it, especially if you get an ugly one of him. Or if there was one point I had somebody who had a Kyle Broflovsky profile picture. That's always going to persuade me as well if you get a picture like that. Yeah, so here b5 is coming and he has to be careful. So like, for example, I can already just play b5 and trap his bishop in response to my knight being taken, but I don't think it's necessary just yet. I'd rather start with knight h5, taking advantage of white not having played d3 or anything so that my knight is not trapped. And now I'm threatening b5, which just about traps his bishop, and I'm also threatening to take his e5 pawn from him. So this seems quite good for me. How do I avoid killing myself when they go to c3? Come on, guys. I mean, you should be quite happy to see c3. It's not a great move. It gives you easy equality. I mean, sure, the positions are a little bit dry, but you should be happy that you're immediately equalizing without any discussion. All right, so knight e4. Let's start with e5, bishop b7, maybe. Seems like a good place to start. I'm going to take e5 at some point, but I kind of like getting my bishop out first. And yeah, so now I think the time is right. Let's grab e5. Castle, sure. And this bishop on b3 is a bit annoying because it's attacking me and it's also defending c2, so I'm going to exchange it off. And I think I'm basically just a pawn up now. So let's go bishop g7. He can play f5, but I don't believe he's going to mate me without enough. He doesn't have enough pieces in the attack. Yeah. No, I was actually very satisfied with what I found against the Alapin. What I find is actually the Alapin is it's actually a sort of risky opening for white because I think basically every endgame ends up really good for black. And white has to be pretty direct, and I found that if you can ever play like a g6 setup with bishop g7, which I didn't always manage to pull off depending on white's move order, but I often did, it feels like very quickly white can just end up worse if he's not careful. So I didn't really see the Alapin as a major issue. Alright, so bishop b2 here feels like it's asking for trouble, but let's see. If I take e4 and then take b3 and then go d3 and rook c2, that feels like it has to be devastating. So let's do it. Take. If bishop d5, I have at least knight g3. But here my thought was I can go take in d3 and my rook will land on c2. I don't know. Maybe he's alive after queen e3, but it looks pretty bad. So he heard me and played queen e3. If I take b2, rook c2, take, rook c1, I have queen d1, queen c3, I have queen d1, queen e2. Yeah, I think I can get away with taking this and going rook c2 and slamming this pawn into the 7th rank. Were there any anti-Sicilians that were problematic to disarm? Not really. One nice thing about the classical Sicilian is I think it's actually really good against all of the anti-Sicilians because you aren't forced to play a certain way. For example, if you play the Najdorf, it's kind of annoying to meet various options like knight c3 in the second move. You can't play knight c6 because then you will be tricked into a classical Sicilian, which you don't want. But if you play, yeah, so basically the classical Sicilian is really nice because you can play knight f3, d6, and you can play knight c3, knight c6. You can play knight c6 on move 2 against like a lot of stuff apart from knight f3 without having to worry about like being move order tricked. So yeah. All right, let's see who wants to play Ikarov. This is a faster game, but we'll see. I got flagged a bit yesterday, but I was playing blindfolded. Maybe I'll manage not to today. No, the nicest thing, I mean, the Rouser, the whole repertoire came in at like 430 trainable variations. It really wasn't that much. And I think the biggest reason for that is against the classical Sicilian. I just think black has like very easy equality absolutely everywhere except for bishop g5. I think white really has only one challenging variation, and everything else is quite easy. So that means it's a shorter course than what you would get for like a Najdorf or a Sveshnikov or another Sicilian where there's a lot more options. So let's see if I can... Okay, bishop e3 is a bad move. We go knight g4. This is already better for black, I think, which sort of highlights a place where the classical can be better than the Najdorf. So bishop c1, I don't remember even covering this move, but if I'm not mistaken, does queen b6 not just win material on move 7? Congrats on all my courses. I've got all of them. Buy the new one for sure. The problem is they invite you to spend too much time on the opening. Yeah, okay, but you know, it's not the only part of chess. I also wrote Small Steps 1 and 2, and I'm working on the book Technical Rook Endgames as well, which will probably be out in 2022. But my content is definitely going to slow down considerably, if not stop, once tournaments come back, so enjoy it while you can. Are the f4 or f3 lines more challenging against the mainline Rouser? Probably f3, but they're both like really reasonable. Both very good tries to fight for an advantage. So those are the ones you have to be ready for, yeah. So here black is obviously much better. I just have to figure out... I probably don't want to get too greedy and take b2. I'm just going to go e6 and slowly develop. And if I can just go like bishop e7 and castle, like I'm just much better strategically thanks to the bishop pair and the better structure. But yeah, I struggled a bit more with the f4 lines in the Rouser. The queen d3 line is also pretty good, actually. That one, queen d3, I had some trouble with. But funnily enough, it was a very specific version of queen d3 that nobody has really played much yet, where I struggled the most. There was some position where there's a very rare move. There's a move that's just basically never played, and I thought was actually sort of hard to meet, but the main stuff I didn't have any issue with. Who do I consider the greatest classical Sicilian players from history? I don't know. I mean, honestly, I think the classical Sicilian, the way people used to play it in the past, was just bad. I think it sort of fell out of favor. And then because people realized that white was just better in most of these lines, and then it was only recently when like AI engines taught us different ways of handling it. So it's sort of weird to say who is the best classical Sicilian player. It would. It almost sounds to me like, you know, who was the best like Evans Gambit player. It's like, okay, I mean, sure, they played it and it worked for them at the time, but it just doesn't work anymore, and you have to play the classical Sicilian very differently than it used to be played in order to get a decent position, I think. So I guess that's not a very satisfying answer, but it's sort of how I feel. All right, so this game should basically win itself pretty soon. I mean, I'm a clean pawn up with an absolutely dominant position. So I can go like bishop g5, b4, and then take on c2. Seems very convincing, but I'm just gonna, I would lose d6 then. So I'm gonna let him wallow in his misery and just keep making slow moves. Okay, knight e2. Let's go bishop g5, and then, yeah, okay, enough of this messing around. It's time to break through. Let's go bishop g5. He will play rook d1. I take c2, take d6, and say bishop back to f6, and that looks very much over. Okay, knight c3. So he wants to play that way. I'm just debating how interesting I want to make this, but I'm a boring dude, so I'll keep it boring. Take a second pawn and just go rook there. I could have certainly sacrificed on c3, and black would have still been completely winning, despite the exchange down. So here, let's just make sure not to get flagged, and then I will win. That's basically how this game will go. So here, knight d3, let's go knight c4. And at some point, bishop f6 won't feel good. All right, so here, take and take. Bishop comes to e5. Let's go c3, I guess. Maybe a5 first. This is why I'm not a great blitz player. Like, what I've done here is absolutely winning. There's no doubt about it, but it's not winning fast. And so, like, he will have chances to try to flag me, I guess. But, I mean, he's, of course, completely busted. All right, so let's take this, king e5, and I'm up a million pawns. All right, check. We're still playing this game, are we? All right, fine. You want to keep playing? We'll keep playing. Flag me if you so desire, but you're not going to manage this time. Good game, Ikarov. So let's play with not winning at all. You got Messi on your picture. This will be my chance to put a ball in Messi's goal, although I guess he doesn't play goalkeeper anyway. All right, let's play the d4 repertoire. See how it works. Okay, so here, e4. And I gave c4 in the course, playing very strategically and trying to get some kind of King's Indian, which we now already have. So I gave the Gligorich, which I was pretty happy with. c5 already. I think let's just go d5 and play a Benoni. Seems easy enough. And now actually it's hard for him to play a Benoni because he can't really play e6 very easily. I will just take it. And because in these structures with e6, and I take it, then the knight would really like to have come to c6 instead, and it's going to be on the wrong square. So yeah, here I'm just going to go ahead and take this pawn. Because, okay, wait, but now I can take this one as well. But yeah, the whole problem is, like, this knight, if you play d6 in the Benoni proper, like, you're not going to get anywhere because the knight on b8 is supposed to go to c6, but once black has wasted time playing knight a6 to c7, where the knight actually just isn't very good anyway, I think white ends up in good shape. So yeah, let's go rook fd1, hit that bishop, and then okay, so queen b8, and if I'm not mistaken, I now win a piece with queen b8 and e5. I think any opening you master, even if a gambit or whatever, is good enough for online chess or most people, because not many title people, etc. Yeah, I mean, for online chess, you can get away with anything. You've got, people playing like really ridiculous lines in a 3-minute game. I mean, there's a few reasons it doesn't matter. One is if you don't remember how to beat it right away, and you're not going to be able to like spend a few minutes to figure it out or try to recall your analysis. You have to move right away, so that's part of it. Another is that just because there's so many mistakes in Blitz in general, the natural course of a Blitz game is for the advantage to go back and forth from one side to the other. And that's very different from in classical chess, where it would normally, if you get an advantage right from the opening, you might be able to ride it to victory. But all right. All right, Peter Griffin, what you got for me? Oh, Smith Mora, do I get to show my refutation? Let's see. Okay, so knight c6. I found a line that I thought was really easy. So I go e6, and then bishop goes to b4, and knight e7. And the point is here, I actually found that in almost every anti-Sicilian possible, I wanted to not touch my d-pawn. I really like leaving the d-pawn on d7. Okay, so bishop f4. This move order. I think I should just start with knight g6 and challenge the bishop right away, or maybe if I castle, knight b5, a little annoying. I can just go bishop c3 and d5. It looks very easy. It's probably the most professional way of handling it. Knight takes d5 seems really good. I didn't cover bishop f4 in the course, so now I'm thinking. I thought white's best option was knight b5, and then after d5, take, bishop d5, knight d5, queen d5, castle, you get an easy bishop pair for nothing. So I'm going to take on c3. I'm a little worried about knight b5, and I'm just going to throw d5 at him. And I'm going to be up, not the most glorious pawn ever, but still a pawn all the same. This just seems easy enough, and I don't really see any real compensation. So here, like, let's go knight d5, and now, I mean, he can, for example, take twice on d5, go rook e1 check, but yeah, so here, as far as I can tell, I'm basically just up a pawn. I'm not really worried that he's going to attack me with anything I can't handle. So let's start with, I guess, it's kind of annoying to activate the light squared bishop. Let's go b6, I guess. This is not a glorious bishop, but it's fine. Just don't really believe white can attack here. Sure, so get this knight out of my face. It will go back to e4, I guess. I guess it's a little annoying there. Nope, back to f3. It's a quieter move. Okay, so bishop b7. At any moment he wants, he can play bishop d5, and he'll only be like, he'll have some chances to draw an opposite bishop endgame with one pawn less, but it's obviously depressing for white, so it's not surprising to me that he doesn't want it. Alright, so let's go knight e7 seems fine. Hit that bishop, get ready for some rook c3. Okay, so I should be able to take c3 now, I think. No pins that I particularly care about. Sure. But queen b2 is a little annoying, isn't it? Alright, we're playing Banter Blitz. Let's have some fun. I'm going to sack an exchange and go knight f5. And now start to counterattack him. And I think this is actually just a really good exchange sacrifice because my knights are so good, so solid, and his rooks are so bad. Rook d4. Offering me my exchange back. Okay, I'll take it. I don't see why not. Let's go queen f6. Queen g4, sure. Let's just activate the rook. Yeah, so guys, a big problem with like playing really stupid lines in general is that if your goal is to become a better chess player, that's not going to teach you to do it. You will end up losing potential to get experience in real openings. So like, for example, I hear one common rationale, like this is a bad opening, but it works at my level and it works for me. It won't work when I get stronger, and I'll fix it then. But the problem with this rationale is that then at some point it will stop working, and when it does, you're going to have to play something new, and you're going to have to play your first game in that line with 0 experience, and you will have not been building experience in these structures in the meantime, and so that will just leave you in trouble when it's better to get ahead of the curve and develop experience in real solid mainline positions as opposed to like playing nonsense for as long as you can get away with it. Yeah, so this game, of course, I might get flagged because I talk too much, but obviously black is completely winning. I have a million extra pawns. So here, I'm going to pick up the pace. I don't like getting flagged, so I'm not going to let him flag me this time. King of 6. Check. No flagging today. Take. Alright, I'm just going to pre-move my way through so I can't get flagged. Okay. Managed to beat King Hunter. I basically took a pawn against the Mora. Wow, someone rated like 3,000 was challenging me. Let me see if I can find that. Where was it? Pawn holder. Let's see. I don't know who this is, but it says GM. I don't know who pawn holder is, but let's see if he can bust my repertoire. But yeah, I think I pretty much showed how to handle the Smith Mora there. All right, so G3. Don't know who this guy is. Bishop G2, sure, castle. C5 here, really? I don't think you can do that. Let's go D5 and try to punish him. So there's a couple ways I could handle this, but I think knight H4 is going to be most critical. Knight G5 is also pretty reasonable there, if I recall. Alright, so let's go knight F5 and harass this bishop. Alright, so now knight C3 is fine. And yeah, this bishop is just sort of misplaced on E7 is black's big problem here. So let's increase the pressure with bishop G5. And I think black's position's pretty tough. So I think I can get away with bishop H4 because he cannot play G5. So, but wait, I might have had bishop F6, knight D6 actually. Yeah, if he plays rook E8 here, I can go bishop F6, knight D6. All right, so he goes D6 instead. Seems sensible enough. Let's all right, we've waited long enough. We can take this pawn. And now I'm ready with e4, f4, and smash. And his bishop is on the wrong square for these Benoni structures. It wants to have played g6, bishop g7. All right, so that looks incredibly skeptical to me. Wait, bishop f6, queen g4. Does that win his queen? Bishop f6, bishop f6, queen. No, it doesn't. It doesn't threaten mate. So let's just go e4 to start with. It looks very skeptical to play queen d7, and it might have just been walking straight into some... I feel like it's going to walk right into like bishop h3, queen d8, e5 pretty soon. But, this just feels like it has to fall apart sooner or later. I think black's play here has been... I mean, he's got no space for his pieces. I mean, it's just bad. If it's Nepo or MVL, do they have a chance against Magnus? I mean, anyone has a chance against Magnus. I mean, what? Magnus can just randomly get really sick in the middle of the match. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I think Magnus is far and away the best player in the world. I think he's a big favorite against all of them. A favorite by a lot. Like, I don't think I'd give anybody, like, over, like, 25%. But, I mean, that's not nothing. I mean, 25% chances happen. It's, I don't know. I mean, I think anybody who believes these guys are, like, we might have a new world champion sometime soon has absolutely no clue how good Magnus is. But, I mean, it's... Okay. Yeah, so here I think black is completely crushed. After king g2, he's going to have to move his queen. And like, and then knight takes d6 is coming, and yeah, so black is falling apart here. He just got slaughtered in the center. Ah, he has a tricky move. One I didn't see. Very clever, my friend. I missed that one. Now I actually have to work a little bit. So, it's actually a really annoying move. I've self-pinned myself. Alright, let's start with queen d2 to make sure he can't play g6. I've badly misplayed this as a result. Alright, so I guess I have to take on d8. He takes with the rook, sure. And then let's go bishop g4 so that I'm threatening knight h6. And I gotta get my bishop out of the way. But knight f6, and he's not dead here. I mean, he should be dead, but I've misplayed it, so he had that little trick, and now he's much worse, but not crushed. So queen f4 comes, and now d6 is hanging. He's gonna have to bring pieces backwards. Alright, so there, let's just take on h6, seems fine. Oh, queen h3, just blunder that. I'm talking too much. Yeah, just blundered queen h3. Ugh, that's bad. Alright, I probably should just resign, but at least I have some hope to play f4 e5 in the next couple moves before he's ready. I was completely winning there, but talking too much. Story of my life. f4, rook e8. So if I go e5, it's actually annoying for him to deal with. Let's see what he plays. e6. I don't know. Maybe I will find a way to complicate this. Of course, I'm just lost, but maybe I can fight on a bit. So let's see. I'm not good at seeing these stupid little tricks in 3 seconds instead of 5. That's what makes a good blitz player. Alright, so I take with the rook. I just take a knight d7 and rook e8 and I'm lost. Yeah, I'm done with this game. I was absolutely winning and then blundered a piece. Good game, pawn holder. Well played. So next up, let's see. Let's play with John Tadros. Accept. And then something's weird here. It says I have no pending challenges, although I just had a ton previously. Alright, yeah, that's a, man. I hate games like that. Everyone's gonna give me nightmares. Just outplay somebody totally, and then he plays some ridiculous line, and then manage to hang a piece in one move. Alright, so this one I thought you're supposed to take this and go queen b3, which is kind of tough for black to deal with. He has reasonable counterplay after cd5, knight c6, and then queen b7, bishop d7, but I still think white has chances for an edge there. Yeah, guys, for what it's worth, I have no pending challenges. The challenge button isn't working, so that's weird. Okay, queen c8. This feels very wrong. Let's start with check on b5, maybe. Yeah, guys, it looks like we're having some technical glitches. It seems everybody in chat said their challenges have been canceled, and I don't see any challenges. So here I can take on d5, which is certainly reasonable after take e6, queen b3, which looks really good. But I can also play like bishop. Nah, bishop d2, a6 is a bit annoying. I think I should grab this pawn while I can. And after, like, say, knight d5 and e6, I can duck the queen back to b3, and I don't think he has that much to show for the pawn. I'll go bishop d2 and rook c1. I can challenge you guys manually? No, I can't. I'm too stupid for that. Maybe I'll find a way. But after, let's see, this game might go on a while. Maybe Trust24 will fix it. I know I'm currently on the Zoom call with one of their helpers, so maybe this problem will fix itself before it becomes a further issue. All right, so here I'm a pawn up, but I have to be a little bit careful, but I'm not wildly concerned either. And actually, I'm threatening d5 winning a piece here. So, okay, a6. Let's d5 is sort of tempting, but I think maybe it's asking for trouble. Let's just retreat. Let me, and my thought here was now I can go bishop b3, and I'm pretty happy to let this a file open now that there is the weakness on a6, and I will go knight f3, bishop d2, and this seems like a pretty reasonable pawn up. I don't know, guys. There's still some time between now and... Let me refresh the page here while I'm waiting. All the challenges are gone, but... Okay. Alright, I will try that. So here, I'm supposed to log out and log back. In case you guys didn't hear the voice, I'm not sure if that voice was audible for you or not, but I'm supposed to log out and log back in after this game, so maybe that will help. They can't hear you, okay, so... yeah. So here... Annoyingly, this is not over yet because Black's bishop is quite a bit better than mine. It sort of feels like you should just win with the extra pawn, but it's actually not that easy now. If I could somehow get these bishops off, I would definitely win easily, but... Okay, so rook f8, I think that's the start of a bad idea. I suspect Black wants to play e5 next, and I think that's a big mistake. So... But what do I play? Let's bring the bishop back to e1. Maybe I can go knight d2 next to fight for the e4 square. I think a queen exchange would be great as well. Okay, that I think is impatient. Now I will get the c file. Okay, so this all feels totally wrong to me. Now my bishop will not be such an idiot anymore. I can play... bishop c3 is not great. Let's just start by taking this one, and then maybe check and rook c7 seems pretty good. There's gonna be queen e4 then. Let's just go f3 and get ready for e4 and try to dominate this knight. This is maybe a bit more prosaic than I need to be, but it also seems like it should work. If knight d5, I have bishop d2, and then e4 is coming. Alright, so rook there, sure. Let's put the queen back on c2, and I'm ready for e4 next, and at some point queen c8 will come. I've managed to mess this up a little bit, but I still think it's pretty easy pawn up. b6, sure. Let's go e4. And then I guess next up is like bishop f2 and kick that queen away. And rook g5. Okay, so this guy wants to make a mess. I think it's very sensible. It's what he probably should do, because he's not going to save this game under normal circumstances, but I don't think it will work. So here, bishop h2. Queen d6, sure, but now I can go rook d1, and if queen h2, I'll be able to go rook d8 check, e5, and then I don't really believe in the attack, so... Yeah, good game, pawn holder. I don't mean to berate you in any way. If you play sloppy chess and then I don't punish you, that's my fault, not yours. So you played very well, and you were resourceful and deserve to win. So yeah, here I think I could have gone e5 and ef6. I don't really believe in that attack, but this bishop g1 just seems so easy, because if queen e5 I have bishop d4, and this looks like it's falling apart for black. Queen h2, but now there's no check or any funny business, because I can just, there's no queen g2, so here I'm just going to win a piece in the game. And if queen h1, I have bishop g1. So here I managed to pull this one off. Yes, so after this game is over, guys, I'm going to log out and log back in, and maybe that will help. So we'll see. So check, bishop back to g1. And this game seems approximately over. So, alright, how are we going to finish this? Let's just centralize the queen. It's a good start. Get ready for queen e8. Okay, so queen e8, and then sure, let's go queen e8. I don't think rook f3 is even close to perpetual, so let's just go bishop f2, and then say king e1, and my king will easily escape these checks, and no more checks. And that'll do it. Okay, so good game, John Tedros. This one was not that easy. I thought I would win easily, but you made it tougher. Okay, so here, hang on back. All right, so check and then mate is fine. So let me log out and then log back in and see if that helps. So I'm going to, where is this? Log out. Find a way here. Hang on. So. Okay, I've logged out and I'm logging back in now. Okay. All right, so I've logged out and logged back in, so maybe you should be able to challenge me now, or at least we can hope. That would avoid technical glitches. It looks like they're saying it works now, so it should be okay. Let me just... Okay, great. All right, I got challenges again. So let's play with Ipek Burkham, whatever this is. Okay, so good luck, Ipek Burkerdem. Let's have a good game and see if I can... let's see, we can get another Smith Mora? Yeah, alright, so let's see if my quote-unquote refutation works. Okay, so here e6, and my whole plan was to play bishop b4 and knight e7, leaving this d-pawn at home, and yeah, so here after queen e2, castle, and rook d1, which is sort of the typical plan for white, it doesn't really make much sense to me. Like, let's say we can start with knight g6, and he cannot play bishop f4. If he plays bishop g5, I think the queen is pretty good on a5. And I don't really see much sense in white's position. There's nothing for him to attack. Because I haven't played d6, the e6 pawn isn't weak, the d pawn isn't weak. There isn't really anything too big going on. So here let's duck the queen back to h5, where it looks pretty nice. And sooner or later I'll complete development with b6. All right, so there, bishop d6 looks weird but kind of tempting. I actually like it. And he has to be careful not to get knight d4'd. So that's obviously just a cheap trick, but I also think it's a pretty good score for the bishop. Like, if I go b6, bishop b7, I don't care about blocking my d-pawn, and my bishop can tuck away on b8 as needed. Yeah, so here my thought was I can just tuck the bishop back away on b8, which seems comfortable enough. And it looks like he's got some activity, but in reality I'm about to go a6, b5. So here I can take this one, and now a6 and b5 is coming, and I really don't see any compensation. So let's go a6. I guess I'm not actually threatening b5. If he plays his knight back, he can take on b5. So I have to be at least a little bit careful about it, but I don't think it's a huge deal. Okay, queen e3 feels very suspicious. So if I start with bishop f4, then I can go a b5 and bc4 without losing my bishop. This feels like it should work. So let's start with bishop f4. See where that queen wants to go. And then if I can go a b5 next, and then take on c4 without losing my bishop on c8, I'm probably just winning. But also knight e5 here looks very tempting too. But let's just be simple and take this one and take on c4. I don't believe white will get nearly enough here. Jup says open Sicilian, no bishop b5, but who knows? I might get white. We'll have to see. But yeah, maybe we'll play with you, Jup, at some point. Let's see. So yeah, b takes c4 here, and so now I have two bishops and a pawn for a rook, and unless he can do something to me very direct on the back rank, which I really don't think he's going to be able to do, I should be absolutely winning. Among other things, knight e5 and bishop h2 are both tremendous threats here. So he can't play rook c1, so this should win. Yeah, no, I think this is a very good line against the Smith-Morra. The only drawback to this line is that in this position after bishop b4, knight g7, white has the option to play knight b5, threatening bishop f4, which is kind of annoying, and then black has to play d5, ed5, ed5, bishop d5, knight d5, queen d5, and castle. When white gets his pawn back, and the only imbalance in the position is that black has a bishop pair. Now, that's not that much, and I think in a higher chess sense, white should definitely save it, but he's already just worse with white. Like, that's without any counterplay, and, like, having to play a very direct, desperate move to just immediately force a slightly worse symmetrical position. I think that sort of is a nightmare for a Smith-Morra Gambit player to play with. All right, so Jup says he wants a real open Sicilian. Let's see what he's got in mind for me. All right, Jup. No alfil b5. No oi. Yay. Let's have some fun. Takes. Jup has always played bishop b5 against me, and he's had some decent positions. Okay, so h3, I don't think is great. e5 is fine here. So one thing to know about these structures with knight c6 and e5 is they're strategically a bit dubious for black, and that's one of the reasons that people often prefer the Najdorf to the classical, because the knight on c6 can end up misplaced, but because we've avoided the move a6, we can fight for d5 more easily. So here what I gave now is a very important move h6. We want to not allow white to play either bishop g5 or knight g5. We want to leave this bishop tension, and sooner or later I'm ready to play knight a5, such as here, and then I will be able to fix the bad knight on c6 while also pressuring the bishop on b3. So now I can certainly take on b3, but I'm actually going to be a bit more patient first and start with queen c8. Of course, knight e5 was a threat. But here the whole point is I think these structures can be dubious for black because of the bad knight on c6, and now I've clearly fixed it. So that is that speaks in black's favor. All right, so knight h2 is not particularly subtle. He obviously wants some kind of knight g4. But I don't think it's that problematic either. So... but I should be at least a little bit careful. Maybe this is a good moment for knight takes b3. I think it is, because if he's allowed to play knight g4, then I go knight takes g4 and he has bishop e6 as an in-between move. So let's start with knight b3, and then go a6 to clog his a file. And here he cannot play knight g4, so I'm not wildly concerned. Knight f1, but now I will go queen c6 and maybe stop knight e3. He can still play it, actually, because of this tactical trick with knight d5. But I still think this is totally fine for me. I can play like some rook to c8, and he will not get knight d5 under good circumstances. Alright, so bishop d2, sure. let's start with rook fc8 and potentially get ready for b5. And I'm also imagining I might want to reroute my bishop to b6 at some point. So here, let's start with bishop d8. I think mainly this is prophylaxis against knight e3, because if knight e3, he has this trick knight e4, knight d5, but here that won't work. So I go bishop d8, and we get b5. All right, Jup, you promised me no bishop b5 check Sicilian, but that's basically what we're in right now, right? This is funny. It looks a lot like one of those lines with bishop b5 check and knight d7, which is not what I recommend. I gave bishop d7. But yeah, here I'm ready for b5 next, and the bishop can come to b6, and I think I have a very comfortable position. All right, so queen f3 is not a subtle move. He wants to fight for the d5 square. Fair enough. But maybe I can start with bishop b6 and plant this bishop on d4, for example. So knight e3, and now I can certainly just take this knight, but I actually like bishop d4 more. And I'm ready for b5 next, and I have the d5 square pretty well under control. He can try knight d5 here, but I think black's getting good counterplay. Maybe it's not the most brilliant game I've ever played, but yeah, knight cd5 is a good move, isn't it? Yeah, rook c1 I think is a big mistake, because now I can take on c3 and take on e4. Unless I missed something. If he had played knight cd5 there, I would have regretted playing bishop d4. I should have just taken on e3 and gone b5 when I'm very much fine. But, yeah. Now, guys, my course wasn't against the Smith-Morra. It's an entire classical Sicilian course. It just has one chapter on the Smith-Morra, which I think I did a very good job on, and as we're seeing in these games, I was constantly just getting good positions and not giving white anything for the pawn, but I mean, obviously white has more challenging options than that. All right, so let's take with the knight on e4, and I don't think white has very much here. So c4, and now knight back to f6 to threaten an exchange of queens, and at some point I'll be able to play b5 and break down the pawn mass and get ready for d5. So it will take a little bit of effort to consolidate here. It's not like totally over yet, but I do think I should win. So let's start with b5, challenge the c4 pawn so that I can fight for the d5 break. So he takes, and I take back, and now d5 is coming. So let's start with d5. And then, yeah, okay, of course I blundered this completely. But, yeah, I blundered this completely. That was pretty dumb. I think I'm still better though. So if I go rook b8, that seems like it's a weird looking move, but the point is that when he takes on f6, I take back, and if he takes on d5, I take on c2, and the b5 pawn will be defended at the end. But he will be able to go rook d8 check and then rook d5, so I think he's actually making a draw here. Rook d6 is a mistake though. Now I'm going to stay a pawn up. Oh, he had an idea. Oops. That was careless. Now am I worse? That'd be really depressing. Nah, I'm not worse. Come on. I can't possibly be worse here. So let's go. Maybe I can be, actually. Nah, let's just go rook b8 and get this rook to c6, and I have to be okay. Yeah. No, this was clumsy. I was basically just winning, and then I blundered this bishop e7 trick, which was less than intelligent, but I'm still, of course, just going to draw this game. He actually has to be a little bit careful here because my king is closer. So this rook endgame might not be that easy for white. So take, rook d3, sure. And let's say I start with rook c5 to stop rook d5, but he has b4 and then rook d5 all the same with the draw. Maybe I should have played b4 there, but he would have had rook d8 to b8. Nah. This is a top loss. Rook d7. Okay, but Let's say I go here. This is definitely a draw, but maybe I can push him a little bit. King h2, let's go. That actually is risky because now I get my rook to a pretty good spot. Rook c3, b3 comes and my rook is not in the way anymore. This is definitely still a draw, but he's gonna have to be at least somewhat careful. So let's say I'll start with like h5, gain some space. He has to be careful. If he brings the king up, I'm going to have rook d5, rook c5, and rook b5. So there, sure, but now I can bring the king up, and he cannot move his as well because of rook f3. I'm actually making something happen here. I definitely think this is still a draw, but I'm able to make some trouble. Hang on. So check, and then rook b4. And then I think I'm good here, actually. Check, and now my king will come back, and I will shove the pawn to b2 and then win a pawn endgame. So yeah, I actually managed to make this work somehow. Now guys, I'm using very strong machinery when I make my courses, of course. I'm a professional. Come on. I will give you guys, I'm not going to give you guys a lifetime repertoire like running, you know, whatever, Fritz 10 on my phone. Like, come on. Yeah, so here I'm winning. This was a bit of a sloppy game, but I got there. Take, and I'm good. Alright, good game, Jep. That one was pretty sloppy from both of us, I think, but all good. Alright, let's go with Fito Nigger. We'll play with you. Ah, another American. Lovely to see you. Oh, man, Budapest. Okay. So this is what I gave for chessable, and I think is very strong. F4 and then knight c3, and I think this is quite annoying for black, yeah. So there, I believe it's knight ge2, and if I just set up like g3, bishop g2, bishop e3, and castle, like black has no space in an absolutely miserable position, so this I think is quite good. Alright, so here we'll go. Okay, so a5 is trying to preserve the long diagonal and not run into knight a4 after bishop c5, so I'm going to take this diagonal first myself. And now bishop g4. I guess, does he want to trade two bishops for two knights? Might not be the dumbest thing. Let's just overprotect and stop it in its tracks. I mean, I don't know if this was totally necessary, but it's fine. At some point, black's just worse with less space. Okay, so queen d2, and obviously white is clearly better here thanks to the extra space for basically nothing. It's still somewhat solid for black, but yeah, okay. So let's just go b3 and keep everything defended. That's a good rule of thumb in these solid positions. All right, so knight d4, and at some point his bishop on g4 can become vulnerable. I think he really has to take this. He doesn't want to let me go knight db5, so that would be bad news for black. But no. One thing I've noticed a lot about myself when I do these courses is I really like, against a lot of gambits, I really like taking the pawn and then giving it back later and using that time that my opponent is spending to recapture the pawn to do something. I did this a lot in the Sicilian course as well. But yeah, here obviously I just have a nice position with the extra space, and so here I'm. Let's see, how do I want to do this? F5 is kind of tempting. Let's just do it. We're playing Banter Blitz. So he must play F6 to not lose his bishop, which I was hoping I could meet with like knight d5 and maybe make some counterplay. I mean, he has to play F6, but G5 is not going to hold. Let's start with knight d5. Do I refer to opening books when doing my courses? Yeah, I do my best. I mean, Negi is probably the best one who wrote a book on e4 for white. So I covered that. I covered like the Wesley So recommendation and the bishop b5 check line. I made sure to cover stuff to the best of my ability. But yeah, so if Faito Nager had played f6 there, he would have had reasonable chances. English is the best opening. I don't know. I like playing it for white. I'm not going to fight with you on it. It's pretty good. I like d4 more, but you know they're both good lines. But yeah, here this game is over. English always draw. I'm not sure if that's the case. All right, so let's play with who am I going to play with now? Let's play with Thuan. Which I think is a Vietnamese name, but it's a German flag, so. Alright, Thuan, what you got? Alright, so here my course is the Semi-Slav, so let's just play it. I mean, I played some King's Indians the other day just for fun. I might do another one sometime, but yeah. Alright, so he plays Exchange Slav, which is always a bit annoying to play against because it's dry, but I also think I showed pretty easily how to equalize. E3. Okay, that's weird. Let's start with bishop g4. White blocking his pawn in like that feels pretty suspicious to me. And now it just feels like I'm playing white because I got my bishop outside the pawn chain and he didn't. But yeah. This is certainly very comfortable for black. I don't really believe I'm better yet, but it's certainly comfortable. Okay, so knight b5 is fine. I will happily play a6 later. That's not going to be an issue. Knight d2. All right, let's not trade pieces. Knight c3, sure. I'm kind of tempted to blow up the position with e5. But maybe I'll be an adult for this game and play a6 instead. e5 was very tempting there, but I'm just going to be more calm and play in the style of the Exchange Slav. And he's lost a lot of time with his pieces, so... Let's go queen e7. At some point, if I play bishop a3, he's going to have some weaknesses on the c-file. Bishop d3. Okay, I think I'd rather actually take the knight than the bishop. Alright, so this guy really wants to move back and forth, but it doesn't really work if you do it enough. Good players are usually able to find ways to mess up the game a bit. Alright, so queen d2, this sort of seems to be begging for bishop b4 and knight e4 next, so let's do it. Okay, good. Have a good day, pawn holder. Thanks for the game. I'll get my revenge next time, maybe. Alright, so now let's go bishop back to f5, and if bishop d3, I believe bishop c3 is going to be bad news for white. So here well, bishop c3. Okay, he's not like lost because after bishop c3 knight b4 he can play bishop takes b4 when my queen is hanging too, but after queen takes b4 he plays like queen e2, I take on d3, I go rook c3 and other rook to c8, and we will get a symmetrical position with only one open file, and I will have full dominance over said open file, which feels like it should be strategically very bad for white. So he must play queen e2 now, or queen d1, doesn't matter. I take on d3, rook c3, rook c8, and I think we're in good shape. So queen e2 and rook c8 comes, and with control over the only open file, I should have very good position. So knight e5 is probably what he should be doing. I mean, he's got to be aggressive somehow here, but I don't think this will work. After rook c2, if queen f3, I think I can probably just get away with grabbing that pawn on a2. Seems easy enough, because the rook is hanging on e1. And if he throws g4 at me, I can just like take a1 and duck the queen back to e7 when I'm safe as can be, and a pawn up. So this seems like it should be good enough. b1, sure. Time to smash the rooks in. And rook f1 is not a very intimidating move. Let's just duck the queen back and get ready for knight e4 by overprotecting f7. To always play bishop f1, what did I give against Wesley's c4, queen e2, b3 stuff? I found a very clever move order for black, or a clever idea that I think stops white from getting his best setup, which I think gives black a good position. But it's a dangerous way, Wesley was suggesting. If you're not ready for it, you can get a very bad position very fast, but I think I found a clever move order that works pretty nicely for black. So here, of course, I'm now completely winning. I'm taking all of his pieces, so let's just keep on taking stuff, and good to go. Alright, takey, and then let's go f6, get the queen to invade on c2, and we should be done here. Alright, so good game to Thwan. Guess we're still playing. It's fine, it's your right. But I think I got this one. Take the knight. Let's cut this king off. Make him believe that I'll stalemate him. Hang on, let's see. This could be fun. No, it's all right. H5. Nah, I was thinking of playing H5 and F7, and it's almost stalemate, but nah. Let's just be adults. All right, H5, and you have to play E4. And now, as long as I don't stalemate, I should be fine. So, okay, so a good game to Thwan. Let's see who else wants to play. Let's play with Dangerous Ride. He always seems to give me a good game. All right, Dangerous Ride, show me what you got. I'm going to play a King's Indian because it's an opening I've never played in Classical because I don't believe in it, but just throwing stuff and having fun is always kind of decent. So let's, of course I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, but let's just play and see what happens. Okay, so d5. I have to imagine a5 can't be a terrible move here. Bishop e3, knight a6. And then let's go knight d7 here. I think there's some weird knight b6 move if I'm not wrong, but I'm just sort of freestyling here because I have no idea about any King's Indian. Let's go c6. Bishop h6, so vile. This feels like it shouldn't work so fast. But now there's knight c4, and now I'm just winning. Bishop h6, and black is good to go. g5, and just take it. Something went wrong there for white, but yeah, I don't know. it's sort of fun for me to freestyle the King's Indian. I've never studied it. I have no idea what I'm doing, and it's an opening I don't believe in, but just sort of playing it for fun in Banter Blitz can be interesting. But yeah, here, of course, black is completely winning. I'm 2 pawns up, and b4 is coming, and I'm a long way from getting checkmated on the king side. Let's go b4. Are the challenges messed up again? It looks like I have challenges here that people are ready to play, but it's not letting me accept them. Or whatever, that's because I'm playing. That's fine, okay. I will just log out and log back in once this game is over, which should be pretty soon, I think. Rajabov is watching and yelling through his screen. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's very few openings out there that I've never played before, but the King's Indian is one of them. And whenever I play it, I just sort of imagine that all the guys who actually can play the King's Indian are just watching at me and just licking their lips. And oh man, I can't wait to play with this guy in the next time. But luckily for me, I don't have to play the King's Indian in classical. I can play openings that I'm actually good at. But yeah, here this is absolutely lost for white. So, how many chess books do I own? I don't know, maybe 100 and some. Part of it is because Jakob sent me like the entire quality chess catalog at some point, which was nice of him. Alright, so here let's go c5 and keep the queen side closed, and then go f5 next and open the king side. I'm also ready for like bishop d3 would win a pawn if he's not careful. Okay, so let's go f5, and my bishop on a6 controls the f1 score, which is kind of nice. And here I'm just 2 pawns up and absolutely winning. Yeah, so the classical Sicilian does cover all the anti-Sicilians. Sometimes Chessable shares the courses with me. Sometimes I have to pay for them, but also like if it's not something in Chessable, if it's like in Quality Chess or in Modern Chess or Thinkers or whoever else, obviously I have to pay for those. I do put some of my own money into making sure these courses are ready. So it's not. It does take some effort, but it's not too bad. And yeah, the classical Sicilian repertoire does cover all of the anti-Sicilians. I mean, the classical Sicilian is just so good against anti-Sicilians. I just think they all make no sense. The flexibility of being able to play either both knight c3, knight c6, and knight f3, d6 without getting move order tricked is really helpful. So here I've logged out. I'm logging back in, and hopefully that means I'll be able to accept challenges once more. So let's see. Okay, so I've logged out and logged back in. Let's see if you guys can challenge me now. Okay, great. Okay, so challenges here. Let's see. I have Gustafsson Gambit. Let's play with you. Alright, so I think in chat he was saying, so yeah, I think the classical Sicilian is definitely Black's best Sicilian against all of the anti-Sicilians by far. There's no doubt about it. It just, because you can play knight c6 or d6 on move 2-3 depending, it's just very, very good against all of the anti-Sicilians. The only drawback of the classical Sicilian is that I think that White's chances of fighting for an edge are a little bit higher there than they would be against, say, like the Najdorf. But basically, like, I think there's a lot less theory in the classical Sicilian, which is very nice. And it's not like White's just better or anything. It's a very good opening. The way I would say it is, I think if the Najdorf is like a 10 out of 10 for how hard it is for white to find an advantage, the classical Sicilian is maybe a 9. Like, I still think it's a really good opening. Anyhow, here, I thought about trying to get my bishop outside of the pawn chain, but couldn't find a sensible way. I still think this is a very reasonable position for black. I think the bishop on g2 doesn't make much sense against this structure. Alright, so castle. And I'll go like b6 next, I guess. Whoa! Alright, Gustafsson Gambit. This is not how we're supposed to play the English. But yeah. The nice thing about the classical is just like bishop g5 is the only remotely challenging move in my opinion. I mean, you have to like know a couple things about bishop c4 or f3 or I just really think that white's best option by far is bishop g5. And because he only has one serious option, it's just so much less theory. Like in the Najdorf, you have bishop g5, f3, bishop e3, bishop c4, bishop e2, h3, g3, a4, a3, all of which are like annoying moves and require like specific responses. And sure, some are like more demanding than others, but these are all like reasonable lines for white. While in the classical, he really only has one, and everything else black just has very easy equality. So I think that's what makes the classical, practically speaking, better opening, even when the Najdorf is, objectively speaking, probably a little bit sounder. Anyhow, here, I'm just up a clean exchange for dead nothing, so that should be good enough. Let's just get the pieces out. And maybe I have broken this Gustafsson Gambit fellow from his opinion about the English being the best opening by far. So it says... Yeah, also another thing is the classical Sicilian, I think, does very good job of playing for a win with black. Because basically, like, especially against a really good player. So, basically, like, I think it has a very healthy level of sharpness to it. Because, like, the best openings, quote-unquote, like, let's say if the classical is a 9 out of 10 in terms of how good it is, and, like, the Najdorf and the Berlin and the Petrov and the Sveshnikov are all, like, 10 out of 10. Like, the problem is... In the Berlin or the Petrov, like you can get some mind-numbingly boring positions very, very quickly, and there's not much you can do to avoid that. While in the Najdorf or the Sveshnikov, there can be such incredibly direct forcing lines that you really just have to memorize a long sequence. There's very little room for creativity, and a lot of these forcing lines just sort of end in sterile equality or forced draws or whatever, and there's just a lot less of that in the classical Sicilian. So I think there's like a healthy balance between sharp and quiet that you don't see in many other like first-rate openings. And yeah, people are saying I'm forgetting h4, f4, knight b3, queen d3. I mean, those are easier moves for black to deal with in the Najdorf than some of the ones I mentioned, but the point stands clear is that because white just has like more challenging options in the Najdorf, it's a much more demanding opening to learn. So yeah. Alright, here let's go rook e3. This game's obviously over. So rook e3, and now I'm going to take his stuff. With bishop d2, I'll go rook c3. But yeah, the Rouser I think just has this very healthy balance of reaching unbalanced, interesting, dynamic positions that are not wildly forcing. Now, you definitely have to know a fair amount of theory, but not as much as a lot of, like, the other, like, sort of more combative lines with white. Alright, so it looks like we have time for maybe one or two more games. Let's see what we got here. Why must I lose to this Bogues? Let's play with you. I like that name. Alright, Bogues, show me what you got. Okay, so let's keep on playing this classical Sicilian and see if somebody can challenge me with it. So, Bogues plays bishop g5, which is definitely the best move. And now queen d2 is main, but also bishop b5 and queen d3 are pretty challenging. And you have to respond to all of them pretty differently. So let's see if Bogues goes for f4 or f3 or something else. Alright, so f4 is one of the main moves for sure. Now white's best move is knight f3. Which he plays, and after b5 here there is e5, a3, and bishop f6. So here he takes an f6. And now this structure is quite interesting. And there was a line here that was supposed to just be really good for white for a very long time, but I think recently has sort of changed a bit. But yeah, I think these structures can be quite good. And the nice thing is, like, almost every endgame black can get here tends to just be better for him because he has the bishop pair and the solid structure. The only issue black really faces is that his king is a little bit sketchy. And that, I mean, it's hard to, like, attack the king, of course, but you know, it just feels like in these positions, black has a lot to play for strategically. So here, there is queen h6, bishop d3, and also knight e2 and g3. So he goes bishop d3 first. Let's go king b8 with the plan of bishop c8. So here we go bishop c8, and we're getting ready to reroute. And now it's not easy for white to play these positions, honestly. Like, it feels like he's just put all of his pieces on his best squares, and I believe queen e3 is actually a really serious mistake, because I think basically every endgame is going to be good for black, so I will not hesitate for half a second about exchanging queens. And here, hopefully, I'll be able to demonstrate why I think these endgames tend to be so unpleasant for white, with this strong central pawn structure and a healthy bishop pair. So let's start with h5 and gain space. I can think about rerouting my bishop to h6 as well. So yeah, g3. Let's start by... Yeah, it's a little bit greedy, but I think I can start by bringing the bishop to h6, where it should be a very good square. And here, like, it's just such a difficult position for white. So let's go bishop h6, and now... Here's the thing, like, if I had this in a middle game and I was dependent on this move king c7 to keep my pawn safe, like, you'd actually realize that black might have something to worry about. But in an endgame, like, I'm totally fine just sticking my king on c7 and leaving it there. This position without queens just always feels really good for black to me. And that's sort of what I was banking on throughout the course. So knight d4, sure, let's take it and go h4. And if he plays, like, g4 or something, I'm ready to bring my bishop to e5. He probably should play a4 just to make some kind of mess. But yeah, g4, now this bishop's going to come to e5. Maybe I could have been extremely greedy and played h3 first to stop him from playing h3. But once this bishop sits on e5, like, white's position is just so bad. I mean, I will be able to play rook c8 without fearing the loss of the d6 pawn. And then once rook c8 comes, rook c4 is going to come, and it just seems really unpleasant for white. So let's start with rook he8 to overprotect this pawn that he's probably going to try to harass a bit. And then let's go a5 and get ready for bishop a6 and further counterplay. And here there's actually a nice trick. If rook b3, bishop a6, knight takes b5, I have a4 as an in-between move and black wins. Alright, so let's go bishop a6 and get ready for b4. That knight's probably going to have to move now. Or the rook. So if I go bishop c4, where does bishop f4, where does his rook even go? Let's start with that and let him figure that out. Maybe just d1 is fine. Yeah, rook d1's okay. Let's now play b4 and gain more space. I don't know. This is exactly the kind of position where, like, you could easily imagine if queens were on the board here, I'd be getting myself mated, and it wouldn't be nearly this easy to just, like, make progress and push white around. But because queens are off, I just don't have anything to worry about. My king on b6 is totally fine. I probably could have even played h3 earlier on. But alright, so let's start with, I guess bishop e5 is probably fine now. I'll go for, like, rook c4 next. Start attacking his toys. Knight b3, sure. So let's go... rook c4 is fine. You can go knight back to d2 if he wants, but just rook c7 and get ready for rook c8. But yeah, this position is incredibly unpleasant for white. Rook c8 comes, and now he has to defend the c2 pawn, and now bishop a6 comes, and because my king has been totally safe the whole game, thanks to the queen exchange, it's just been a really tough position for white to play. Rook d2, sure. So let's go rook c7, rook e1, and let's go bishop f4 and kick this rook again. And white's pieces are really getting booted around. That rook has to go to like g2, I think is its only square. Yeah, alright, so bishop c4. At some point I might just mate him on the a file too. So, alright, I think it's time to strike. So if I take on c1 and go bishop d3, I think I'm going to win something, so let's do it. He takes with a rook, but then I go b3. And something should fall here, like so. And now it's gone. Yeah, so this just sort of, you push white back slowly but surely. These bishops, I mean, white just had such a miserable time dealing with these bishops. Yeah, so because we had some technical glitches, I think we have time for one last game. So I'll find one last person to play with, and I'll spam this link in the chat one more time. Or okay, maybe Vanessa can or someone. But let's play with, we'll play with Bogdan Garmatia. It's a fast game, 3-0. Last one, guys. Let's see if Bogdan can cause me some problems. Alright, so of course I could just go into a French, but in keeping in line with my repertoire, we're going to play this way. Alright, so let's see if this guy gets a similarly bad position in the Queen's Indian and then beats me anyway. That'd be what we would like to avoid. So here, bishop 7, we start with knight c3. And for what it's worth, guys, there's a lag, clearly. There's a lag because when you guys are talking in chat, I can clearly tell it's like 20 seconds after I've said something. Or after, so yeah. As for King's Indian, I just think it's pretty good for white, if he knows what he's doing. I don't really believe in it for black, but if you're white and you're ready, you should just get a pretty good position, and I thought I sort of showed that in the chessbook course, but no, I mean, the big appeal of the King's Indian for black, or one of them, is that there's no move order tricks. Like, you can't avoid it. Yeah, so here, Bogdan has played a weird move order, and I'm wondering if I can take advantage of it with knight e5 directly, but he'll be able to play bishop b7, which is, yeah, I don't know. Knight bd7 is definitely a weird move order. Normally they play with rook e8 earlier, and here I'm gonna go knight e5. I think he has to play bishop b7 now, and then I'll go bishop f4. Actually, wait, I think I could have gone knight h4 there. That was the big trick. Yeah, knight h4 was the move. Threaten knight d5 and knight f5, and I take his bishop. That's what I was supposed to. That's what I was supposed to do. But this is fine. I still think this is nice. Can you avoid the King's Indian with d4, c4? No, I mean, you can't. Like, black goes knight f6, g6, bishop g7 against everything. It's basically the King's Indian is, oh, I'm going to play like these same three moves against anything you play, so there's no real way to do that. Alright, so rook c8, let's go rook c1, and at some point this rook on c8 always feels vulnerable to bishop h3, so I have to be careful. So rook e8, and now if I go knight b5, it feels like something should drop. So knight b5, if a6, knight a7, knight c6, and yeah, I think knight b5 is bad news for black. The tactics don't work in his favor. Yeah. Now you can't avoid the King's Indian, you can't avoid the London. Basically, a lot of openings that you just can't avoid tend to not be that great. Like, you know, the London system, sure, you can't avoid it, but at some point, like, okay, like, it's just the London system. You're not going to get a bad position, so what's the big deal? You should just accept that you can't avoid them, but also say, hey, if I know what I'm doing, I'm in good shape, so no particular problems. All right, so here I have a few options. If I go knight a7, rook a8, knight c6, take, knight f4, rook a2, bishop d5, that looks really bad for black. I can also just duck this bishop back to e3 because a6 I will still have knight. Yeah, so I think bishop e3 is probably the easiest here because if a6 I go knight a7 and knight c6 and he's strategically busted. If c6 I can go knight a7, rook c7, bishop b6, and if c5 I can go g4. So I could have also taken on a7 and been pawn up, but here black is strategically lost and also tactically lost because g4 is threatened as well as taking on d5. So he's losing at least a pawn here and is strategically busted to boot. So that is good shape. I don't know. Panurge, I don't think the Alapin should be hated nearly as much as the Scotch 4 Knights. Alapin, I think black still has plenty of chances to play. Scotch 4 Knights is just forcing and dead. Okay, so bishop c5 comes. Let's just play strategically. I'm going to take this bishop and go f4, stop him from taking e5. And now that f4 is played, he no longer has the f4 square for his knight, so g4 will win a piece, queen d5 is in the air, rook c5 is in the air, so here everything is hanging in black's position. So case in point, I'm going to start with queen d5, and then let's just say g4 is probably fine. Let's just go g4, that seems easy enough. Knight f4, and then get this nice anchored bishop, and that is the end. All right, so good games, everybody. This was fun. Sorry for any brief technical glitches. I'm still mad at myself for blundering a piece that one game where I had a completely winning position. But yeah, good job, everybody, and I look forward to seeing you for the next Banter Blitz session.